Hello everyone, my name is atasya baritanya, student number A1B221087, major English education at JAMBI University. So in this video, I want to retell about how to learn any language in 6 months by Chris Londell. So in that video, Chris asked about how we can learn faster. So this is something like the method that Chris did before, something like sleep learning, where you get a tape recorder, you put it beside your bed, and then it turns on in the middle of the night. And then when you're sleeping, we're supposed to be learning from this. But what is it? That method is not working. It doesn't work. And then someday, Chris decided was going to be another level, in Chinese, instead 2 years. But Chris realized that it's really hard, it's really difficult, and the person could study for 10 years or more and never really get very good at it. And Chris also went in a different idea, something a different way, which was talking of the conclusions from physiological research up to the point and applying them to the learning process. And what was really cool that in 6 months Chris was fluent in Mandarin Chinese, and then it took a little bit longer to get to be a native. But when Chris looked around and saw all of these people from different countries struggling terribly with Chinese, Chris saw Chinese people struggling terribly to learn English and other languages. So this is something like a question that Chris said, how we can help a normal adult learn a new language quickly, easily, and effectively. How we can do that? When we look around for people who can really already do it, and then we look for the situation where it's already working, and then we identify the principle and apply it them. It's called modeling, and we've been looking at a language learning. So the conclusion from Chris is the observation from this is that any adult can learn a second language to fluence inside 6 months. So Chris said we can learn second language in 6 months, but how we can do that? So Chris said about 5 principles and 7 actions. There's maybe a few more, but these are absolutely core. So what are the 5 principles that we need to pay attention to? Talk about this one. This is the first, 4 words: attention, meaning, relevant, and memory. And this interconnect in very, very important ways, especially when we're talking about learning. And Chris gives something like example, we go a journey through a forest, for example, and we go on a walk through a forest, and we see something little marks on a tree. This is something example that give Chris. Maybe we pay attention, maybe we don't, and we get another 15 meters, and we see this, and we should pay attention. But another 15 meters, if we haven't been paying attention, we see this, and at this point we're paying attention, and we just learn that this is really important. So in this, something like the first principle for learning a language is focus on a language content that is relevant to us, which bring us to tools. We master tools by using tools, and we learn tools the fast when they are relevant to us. So the second principle to learning language is to use our language as a tool to communicate right from day one, as a kid does. And the second principle brings us to the third principle. Like when we first understand the message, then we will acquire the language unconsciously, and this is really well documented now. It's something called comprehensible input. And then the another principle, it's comprehension K. Like comprehension is a K, and language learning is not about accumulating lots of knowledge, because we have filter in our brain that filter in the sounds that we are familiar with, and they filter out sounds of language that we're not. And if we can hear it, we won't understand it, and if we can understand it, we're not going to learn it. So we actually have to be able to hear these sounds, and there's a way to do that. But in psychological trainings, speaking takes muscle. And the final principle talk about psychological state. And when we feel so angry, feel so bored, feel so anxious, we're not going to learn. But when we feel relaxed, we feel happy, in an alpha brain state, curious, we're going to learn really quickly and very specifically. We need to be tolerant of ambiguity. And like if we are of the people who need to understand one person's every word we hearing, we will go nuts. This is that Chris said, because we will incredibly upset all the time because we're not perfect. And if we're comfortable with getting some, not getting some, just paying attention to what we understand, we're going to be fine, relaxed, and we'll be learning quickly. So let's talk about the 7 actions that Chris said before. Number 1 is listen alone. We call it breaking joking. We put ourselves in the content when we're hearing tones of language, and it doesn't matter if we understand it or not. We listening to the rhythm, to patterns that repeat. Like we're listening to things that stand out. And then the second action is that we get the meaning first. Even before we get the words, we go like, well, how do we can do that? I don't know the words. And we understand what this different posture meant. Like human communication is body language in many ways. So much body language. From body language we can understand a lot of communications. Therefore, we understanding, we acquiring through comprehensive input, and we can also use pattern that we already know. So the third one, Chris talked about start mixing. We probably have never talked of this, but if we got 10 verb, 10 adjective, 10 nouns, and we can say like 1,000 different things. A language is a creative process. And what does baby do? Like, okay, me, bad, now, okay, that's how they communicate. So start mixing, get creative, and have fun with it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be work. And when we're doing this, we focus on the core. Okay, let's talk about another actions that we said. It's talk about high frequency content. Like when we're just beginning with a new language and start with our toolbox, week number 1 in our new language, we just say something like this, like how do we say that? Like, I don't understand, or what does that mean, or repeat that please, and all in our target language. And we just using it as a tool and making it useful to us. It's relevant to learn other things about the language. By week 2, we should be saying things like this, you, that, or like me, something like a simple pronoun, simple noun, simple adjective, or communicate like a baby. And by the third or fourth week, we getting into blue words. Also, but, therefore, these are logical transform. And then the another actions Chris talk about allowing to make a more complex meaning at that point. We're talking, this is something like example, and when we're doing that, we should get ourselves a language parents. If we look at how children and parents interact, we will understand what this means. When a child is speaking, it will using simple word or simple combination, sometimes quite strange, sometimes very strange interact something like a strange pronunciations, or people from outside the family maybe doesn't understand it, but the parents understand it, like the parents do. And so the kid has a safe environment, something like get a confidence. And so in this actions, we have a comprehensive input environment that saves. We know it works, otherwise none of we would speak our mother tongue. And who will communicate with we, like who will communicate with you essentially as an equal, but pay attention to help us understand the message and something like that. So the 6 rules that Chris said, or the 6 thing we must be do is copy the face. We got to get the muscle working, right? So we can show it a way that people will understand us. There's a couple of things we do. One is that we hear how it feels and feel how it sounds, which means we have a feedback loop operating in our face. But ideally, if we can look at the native speaker and just observe how they use their face, let our unconscious mind absorb the rules, then we're going to be able to pick it up. And if we can get another speaker to look at, we can use stuff like this, famous, like sing song, king song, something like that. And it is related to the last rules that Chris said. And the final idea here, the final action we need to take is something that Chris called direct connect. And what does this mean? We come out at the pathway and we build it over time. We become more and more skilled at just connecting the new sounds to this image that we already have into the internal representations. And over time, we even become naturally good at the process that become unconscious. So there's a 5 principles and 7 actions that Chris said before, and if we do that, we're going to improve. So I think that's all that I can say in this video. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for watching.